to talk a little bit about the curse of the perfectionist. Anyone know what I mean? Anyone can identify as a perfectionist? Like, raise your hand, raise your virtual hand in the chat box. I love honesty. I love people owning their shit, right? Like, perfectionist. Yeah, we got raised hands. So the curse of the perfectionist, and if you read the post that accompanied this training today, you already know that I speak about my own experience, that I speak about going through this whole kind of cycle of deciding that you're going to change something. Right? Who's decided that they're going to eat healthy? Who's decided that they're going to start Monday, or they're going to start January the 1st, or they're going to start, and you feel so hyped up, right? The women that I work with, they don't have a problem getting started. They start, they love to start, they love new things, they love a challenge. So these women, and me, myself included, we get all excited, we get all passionate and driven. We acknowledge our desires, we acknowledge that we want to change, and we begin to do the actions, the habits, the actions, the things that we need to do. Sometimes we forget to change the feelings and the feelings and the thoughts, but we do the actions, we do the habits, we eat healthily, and then we begin to slip up. We begin to have a day when we share a day when we maybe, we do really well all day, and then we get to the afternoon and we end up having a bit of cake, or we go to a party, or we go out with friends, or we just, find something in the cupboard when we're feeling a bit low or a bit peckish. We've all been there, right? We've all been there. But this is the curse of the perfectionist. This is what the perfectionist will do when they make a slip up, is that they will decide that it's all gone to pot. Who's done that? Like, who has decided that because I made one mistake, or because I didn't stick to my meal plan exactly? Yes, Lynn, thank you for raising your hand. You are not alone. We feel that we cannot carry on. We feel that we have messed it all up. Therefore, why bother? So this is the curse of the perfectionist. Now, when we look at that woman, that's got the body that we want, or when we look at women that are having success in their life with their fitness, and what that looks like for you could be individual to you, right? But generally, when we look at women, we think they have success with their fitness. They look lean, they look strong. Most of us don't want to be skinny these days. We want to be shapely, curvy, strong. We maybe want to have some definition. We definitely want, I think everyone I speak to says they want a flat tummy. Some of my clients even say they want the six pack and the abs, right? But not everyone does. So we have this idea of this perfect body, and we also have an idea of this perfect woman that is able to maintain that body, that she is sticking to everything perfectly. Yeah? That she must be, because how else is she bloody well doing it if she isn't 100% on her meal plan, on her exercise and training plan? Like, she must be, right? So that's what I used to think. But here's the thing, because if you are a perfectionist, or you have a tendency to want to do it perfectly or not bother doing it at all, like there's not much grey area, and I tend to call this black and white thinking. We see it a lot as a pattern in our thinking styles in life. It's either definitely yes or definitely no. If you have a tendency to do that, why haven't you been successful so far with your body? Like, if you have believed in the past that in order to get the kind of result that you want and that body, that you have to stick to everything perfectly, that you have to at least, get most of it right. You can't possibly have a slip up. You can't possibly having a day of bad eating. You can't possibly have a whole weekend. You can't even, get through maybe having one thing by mistake if your perfectionism is that bad. And I've been there, right? I say this from the heart because I've been there. So the curse of the perfectionist is, it is a curse, right? Because we tend to throw things away that, throw the baby out with the bathwater. We tend to throw away all our good work when we've just made some small mistake. Now, here's the thing. Here's the myth around being a perfectionist, that this is really going to help you shift your ideas and your thinking around why you lose your motivation, why you're so hard on yourself when you mess up. So here's the thing, and I want to know what you think about this when I say it. So I want some feedback on this. So get ready with your typing fingers to tell me what your first thought or your first reaction is when you hear me say this. This is the myth about perfectionism. Ready? So the perfectionist myth is that we want something to be perfect. Now I'm going to tell you the truth today, because I'm a real believer in the truth and in being empowered by having the truth. The truth is, it's not because you want things to be perfect. It's actually because you're scared. You're scared. You're scared. It's fear. It is a mode of fear. Lynn says agree. It's fear because you feel safe when you're failing. Is that a bit messed up? It's safe. It's safe for you to stay on that sofa and scoff a bag of crisps or a packet of biscuits or, you know, whatever your little habits are. It's safer to do that and fail because that's what you've always done. That's what you've been used to. Dev says, fear of failure, not in diet for me, but definitely in work. Okay, so it's interesting, right? If we have these patterns where we say, you know, I can appreciate that that happens to me at work, but it doesn't happen with my diet. It might just be that you aren't conscious of this, right? So it might just be that you haven't recognized this pattern. So we tell ourselves that if I can't do it 100%, then I won't bother doing it at all. And we don't recognize that what we're actually feeling is fear, right? And Lynn says, you tell yourself you don't care. Exactly. It's a protection mechanism that we use to say, well, if I can't do it properly, I'm not going to bother doing it at all. Or I'm only going to do it when I can do it perfectly, when I can do it properly, when my kids are older, when I'm less stressed, when I'm less busy at work, when I've got more money, when I've got more time to go to the gym, when I've got time to prep my food. We put all these conditions in place, right, to stop us taking action, and we call it perfectionism. We think it's because we like to get things right, yeah? When actually, we're just scared of fucking it up. Because do you know what? If you acknowledge, so if we go back to step one, if you acknowledge that you really desire this, that you do, that it isn't just about fitting in your jeans, that this is a metaphor for your whole life, that you deserve to have this body, that you can imagine, you know, how fucking amazing and unstoppable you're gonna feel when you can sort this shit out, you know? Because it's been getting you down for so long. It's been playing on your mind so much. It's been stealing your peace of mind, your confidence. When you're brave enough to acknowledge that in the first place, admitting to yourself that you might make some mistakes along the way can be really scary. It can be really, really scary to admit that to ourselves, right? What if I mess up? So you have this, let's go back through that scenario, and you have this scenario where you do slip up and you eat something that you feel bad about, or you don't go to the gym because you had a deadline at work and you decided to stay and get some emails done instead. Like, how do we handle that? How do we shift our thinking and shift our perception of our identity, of who we believe we are, so that we can begin to accept that we can fail, we can have these setbacks, and we can still carry on and have success with our bodies and in anything else, whether it's work, love, anything else in our lives, right? Don't they say that everything you desire is on the other side of fear? So yeah, I mean, if you're not doing something that you know you desire, the question to ask yourself, and there's a few questions here that we'll go through at the end, is why? Is what am I feeling? What is the real feeling? Am I really feeling that I want everything to be perfect? Am I really feeling that? Like, is feeling perfect a feeling? Right? It's not a feeling, right? Like, feeling perfect is not a feeling. What's the feeling? The feeling is usually fear. It's fear. A fear of what? I don't know. We'll look at that. So this is a safety mechanism, right? This is your brain keeping you safe. This is not your self-sabotaging you. This is a protective mechanism. It's natural. It's natural, right? It's natural to be afraid. It's natural to get stuck. So if we can appreciate that sometimes we get stuck and it's not motivation, it's not that our motivation has run out, it's not that we're not feeling motivated to do it anymore because we've acknowledged that we really desire this, we're owning it, we know we want to do it, then the next time that we do something differently and we feel a little bit stuck or we don't understand why we've done that, like why did I eat that? Or why did I not show up and go to the gym today when I told myself I was going to go 4 times a week? Like, how are we going to flick that switch in our brain to be able to handle that situation differently, to not go through those same old patterns again and again, where we do one thing or something that we don't really like and then we throw it all away? Because you're not doing that in other areas of your life, right? I bet you're not. You're not doing it in all areas of your life. Like if your kids piss you off or if they behave badly, like, you know, you don't throw them out. We might want to, but we don't, right? So if we know that we are not tolerating anymore, we're not tolerating, you know, if you've done step 1, you've worked out what is it that I was tolerating and what am I not prepared to tolerate anymore. So you know, it might be that you're not prepared to tolerate, you know, the way you look. I'm not prepared to tolerate, you know, my super wobbly thighs. I'm not prepared to tolerate my awful cellulite. I'm not prepared to tolerate my wobbly tummy. But we went a bit deeper, right? We went a bit deeper with that training about what am I tolerating from myself? It's not tolerating my body. Like a body, you can put up with a body, you can put up with stretch marks and cellulite. Some things you can't change, right? There are limits. There are still limits to what you can change. So what you don't want to be tolerating is your behaviors in yourself. This is the part that we need to change. So how do we change this? How do we overcome these old patterns? How do we overcome these ways of behaving and thinking from the past? So this is step 2 and this is the answer to how we begin to change and how we begin to change our old behaviors. So bravery. Bravery. Be brave. Like what? Don't need to be brave, Sarah, to go on a diet. Don't need to be brave. You need to be brave. You bloody need to be brave because, you know, and Lynn's asked in the group about, do you need to have like this big moment, this big hardship to enable you to have a transformation, a breakthrough, you know, whether it's with your body or your business. And there was an example that I used where I said, you know, I always wanted to start my own business, or I felt that I was, you know, there was something more to life for me than doing my corporate job. And, you know, I say I lost my job, but actually I did choose to leave after the court case when I took them to court for sexual discrimination. But what is the difference? What is the characteristic of that woman in that situation where she's, say, lost her job, been made redundant, or, you know, something outside of her control has forced her into that situation where now she wants to make this an opportunity to change her life and to really go for what she wanted to go for? Is her bravery, right? Like, does that make sense? It's her bravery, because she has to be brave. If she's just lost her job, she's got no money coming in, she has to be brave. She can't collapse on the sofa. I mean, she could, right? But she can't collapse on the sofa and just give up and say, that's it now, I'm screwed. You know, where do I go from here? She might do that for 5 minutes. So what happens to us naturally when we are in these forced situations of change, when we have these forced breakthroughs of really intense stuff that happens to us? It requires us to be brave. And it requires us to be brave, and we don't mind being brave in those situations, do we? We expect to be brave. So if you want to create a breakthrough for yourself without having to go through all that shit, without having to go through the hardship side of it, this is the step 2 that you need. After you've acknowledged that you want this and you've really owned your desire, you need to understand that you will have to be brave. You will have to bring courage to this situation. Because that's what you would do naturally in a forced breakthrough, in a forced situation, okay? So is that making sense? Is that making sense that you need to be brave? So before we wrap up, how do we summon up bravery? So how do we be brave? This is what I'm going to leave you with today. I did say it was a shorter one. We've done 20 minutes. It's good. It's good. I said 10 to 20 is good. 20 is good. So being brave in context, how is being brave in context of a body breakthrough, a body change, changing our relationship with ourselves, changing our bodies physically? How is being brave in context of that? So being brave in the context of dieting, of changing your body, looks like this. Hopefully you can see my screen okay, can't you? It looks like this. It looks like having to override your instincts, right? Because we know that it's not natural to lose weight. It's really not. It's not natural for your body to burn fat as fuel, especially if you're overweight. Your body won't be used to it. So there'll be certain things that physically, physiologically, and biologically, you will be overriding your instincts. You know, your brain will be crying out for sugar. Your brain will be crying out for refined carbs if that's what you've been used to. And if you're going to start shifting some habits and behaviors around food, you will have to override your instincts, yeah? You will have to override your instincts. So when I say be brave, this is where we can begin to see how being brave comes into it. So how do you override your instincts? Well, first of all, just bringing your awareness to them. Like, what am I feeling here? What is this feeling? Is this feeling familiar to me? Yeah? Is this feeling familiar to me? Let's say you eat something that you shouldn't eat, that you feel bad about. What do you really feel? Like, what do you feel? Like, you know, I want to wrap this up. I don't want this to be too long, so I'm going to give you the answers to this stuff rather than waiting in the chat box, and I'll come back to the comments at the end. But, you know, if you feel disappointed in yourself, if you feel annoyed with yourself, you feel a bit naughty, you can ask yourself, you know, what am I feeling? What am I really feeling? I'm feeling naughty. I'm feeling disappointed, right? And then you ask yourself, is this feeling familiar to me? Yeah? And it probably is, right? Yes, this feeling is familiar to me. And this is where I usually give up. So what is unfamiliar to you, what is using your bravery, is having that feeling, like I feel disappointed in myself. Okay, you feel disappointed in yourself. Okay, you can feel disappointed in yourself and you can still carry on, right? That's bravery. Like, to be afraid that you've messed everything up, to be afraid that it's not going to be enough, that you are not going to be good enough, because this is the essence of everything that we're talking about today about being brave. You essentially are worried that you're just not going to be good enough, that you're not enough, that what you do isn't enough. It's not going to work. It's not going to be good enough. So when you mess up, you're almost happy that you've messed up, because you can say, I knew it. I knew it wasn't good enough. I knew it all along. I knew I couldn't do this. I knew it's not for me. It's not for me. It's for her. It's for that girl on Instagram. She's younger than me anyway. She ain't got kids. It's for her. It's not for me. Yeah? So you're going to have to override these instincts, override these behaviors that you've had in the past. That's being brave, right? Being brave is not so much like feel the fear and do it anyway, as people talk about. It's really about learning how to not feel the fear. It's really about learning how to trust yourself. Because if you weren't feeling afraid, if you could ask yourself, instead of feeling afraid and disappointed, or let's just start with, instead of feeling disappointed, what would I like to feel instead? what would I choose? What feeling would I choose? If I failed, if I screwed up, what feeling would I choose instead? Shall I tell you the feeling that I choose? The feeling that I think helps me feel more brave is that I choose to trust myself. I choose to trust myself. Shit, I messed up, but it's okay because I trust myself. I trust this process that I'm in. I trust myself to get back up again. So if we compare it to a work situation, you know, to losing your job or whatever else it is, you would be shit scared, right? You would be really scared. Even if you knew that you wanted to change career, or you knew you wanted to leave, or you didn't like the people anymore, or your boss anymore, or you wanted to be self-employed, or whatever it was, you'd be really scared. But somehow in that breakthrough or that breakdown moment, you would have to find a sense of trust, where you would say, I know it's going to be okay. I don't know how, I don't know, but I just know it's going to be okay. And it's no different when you're changing your body. So be brave. Be brave, because you probably will find it hard. You'll probably find it challenging. You'll probably be going against all the stuff that you've been used to doing for years, you know, things you've always known, and it will feel challenging. It won't always feel easy. And if you were forced into a situation that didn't feel easy, you'd take it, right? You'd take that pressure. You'd be like, this is uncomfortable, this isn't easy, but I know I'm growing and I'm changing. And this uncomfortableness that I'm feeling is just a sign that I am growing and I am going to another level. So it won't happen overnight. You know, you won't just suddenly say, I acknowledge my desire to have the best body of my life. Hell yeah, fuck yeah, I want that, you know, I want that body. I can visualize that woman, you know, how do I get there? How do I do that? I'm gonna have to be brave. Step 2, I'm gonna have to be brave about it. I'm gonna have to deal with my resistance and my icky feelings and my uncomfortableness. And as powerful, intelligent, strong women, you know, as the women that I work with are, for some reason we struggle with this, with our bodies, because we kind of think that it should be easy. We kind of think that, you know, well, yeah, I just tell myself what to eat and I eat that. I just say I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week and I go. And then we find that we don't do that and we wonder why. And we don't really allow ourselves to get uncomfortable. We're not brave enough. And I tell you, all those women that you're admiring on Instagram that have got these amazing bodies, I bet they've had to be brave. I bet they've had to feel really uncomfortable. I bet they've doubted themselves, right? Because I think, you know, if you've read any of my stuff, like, you know, I had massive doubts about myself. But you won't start believing in yourself overnight, and you can't wait for the body to prove it to you. You can't wait until you have that body to say, I've done it, I've proved it to myself. It's the journey that you take to get there that's going to show you that trust. So be brave. I just want to say that, you know, you are brave already, right? Like, I know someone asked, how do we summon up that bravery? Like, you have it. You have it. It's within you. That fearlessness is within you. That courage is within you. Perhaps you just haven't thought about needing it for this before, right? You haven't thought about needing it for this. So now you can. Now you can. And it won't surprise you when you start to feel those feelings, okay? And you can be brave. You can be brave. So thanks for joining me live, and I will catch you back for our next training. Let me just stop sharing here. Be back. I will see you back for our step 3 tomorrow.